Dynasty Mirror Search for Who. Thank you so much for joining us again. And this is a part two, I would say, in regards to the whole xenophobia situation in South Africa. I have my brother Copes. Is it Copes or Cops? So I can pronounce it right, brother.
Cops.
Cops. Okay.
It's Cops.
Okay. Cops. Okay. So I have my brother on. Now, brother, you're South African, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm South African.
Say that again.
Yes, I'm South African.
Okay. Listen, if you're South African in the chat room, all right, here's my email. Okay. Send me your email and I have no problem. Sending you the link to hop on here in a second. In about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I'll open it up. So Cops, now you're in South Africa, you're more familiar with the situation. Now, I keep hearing
Hello?
the excuse. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. The excuse
Yeah, I
that's
can
being
hear you.
used. Okay. The excuse that's being used to just somewhat justify the xenophobia is that Nigerians are selling drugs in South Africa. Can you expand on that?
It's not really
And then
an excuse.
you said what?
Let me just explain it this way. It's not really, I wouldn't really say it's an excuse. There is some truth to it. First, I just want to start by saying that I condemn violence against other Africans. I don't agree that people should be killed. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to look at it this way. You have to understand that since Nigerians came to South Africa, since 1994, the drug trafficking began. This has been a problem which has it's been an ongoing problem since 1994. And in the last, I would say, maybe 15 years, 15, 16 years, it became an epidemic. Every hood, every township in South Africa is infested with heroin. Here they call it, in South Africa, they call it nyope. And it's no secret, and everybody knows this, even the law enforcement, is that the Nigerians brought it into the country.
Okay, go. Do you have proof of that?
Sorry?
Do you guys have actual proof that
Yes,
Nigerians
because
are?
yes. There have been several cases. I can even send you, if you want, I can even send you some videos of Nigerian kingpins who have been arrested for selling drugs. This was first documented. Have you seen the movie Dangerous Grounds?
Yeah, I have not. But Cops, let me ask you this question real quick. Are you saying that there were no drugs in South Africa before Nigerians came?
No, that's not really. But the thing is, for instance, marijuana has been there since time immemorial, right? And a lot of, especially the underclass, young black men who are not working, majority of them back then were smoking marijuana. But it wasn't really a big problem. It wasn't like an epidemic. There was a drug called Mandrex, which is similar to ecstasy. The people who were taking it are known as the colored people, the mixed race people in Cape Town. That was just the drug that some people, some youth were using in Cape Town. Now, the drugs that we have today, like cocaine, heroin, the drugs which is really killing the youth, that was brought into the country by Nigerians. You have to look at it this way.
Okay, so quick
Kenya
question.
has
The
been having a problem with Nigerians as well. If you can look at just look at the Kenyan media and look hear what Kenyans have to say. Nigerians have been arrested there.
okay, this is the thing. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah.
with you. The reason why
So you're saying?
no one is trying. The reason why no one
Hello?
is taking the. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Tan in the Tan. Can you hear me? Unmute yourself. Let me know if you can hear me. Can
Yes,
you
I
at least
can.
hear me? You can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's the cops. Cops. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear
Listen.
you.
Okay. The
Yeah, I can hear
reason.
you.
Okay. The reason why
Yeah.
no one is taking the Nigerians are selling drugs in South Africa or importing drugs into South Africa excuse
Yeah, I can
is
hear you. I
because
can hear you.
there must be a lag. Okay. The reason why they're not taking the why no one's taking this Nigerians are import and it's wrong. I mean, listen, if it's going on, if they're selling or importing drugs into South Africa, they're wrong. It's wrong. But the reason why no one is taking this serious, this excuse that some are using to justify xenophobia against Nigerians, is because one, at the end of the day, whites and Indians still control the economy, damn near 90%. And then also too, it's always a different excuse. Today is drugs. Tomorrow is they're taking all the jobs. Then I heard some say, the Nigerians are taking the South African women. So then I heard a guy on TV saying that he's upset that foreigners are coming into South Africa and opening up barber shops. Why do they have to open up barber shops? So it's like the excuses are changing, every other day, if that makes sense.
No, let me explain. No.
Okay. There's some Tan, you wanna come jump in?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Dennis. So,
Let me.
um,
That's one of the things I had to clarify. That's why I had to clarify all of this for you. Like if you ask about proof, like I said, it's been reported time and time again that kingpin have been arrested for what again? Did they miss some subkins of here only the and
Okay, your cops, your connection is,
hello?
we got to get you. I think they got Metro PCS out there in South Africa too. That's that Metro PCS. Shit, yeah. Hold on, they got MTN. MTN's the bet. They got MTN in South Africa. What's wrong with the MTN hotspot, cops? All right, Tan, go ahead, Tan. Go ahead, Tan.
okay. So, just to introduce myself, I am Zimbabwean in the US, living in the US. So I don't claim to be an expert in the situation in South Africa. I'm just sharing my views and opinions based on what I've observed. And what I can say is um, I it's very easy to kind of see the similarities when it comes
Hello?
to how how
Okay,
it's
Tan. Hold on one second, cops. Go ahead, Tan. Go ahead and finish, and then we'll let cops come back on.
sure. It's very easy to see how there are so many similarities in terms of how when you look at the incidents in South Africa, um, it's similar to the incidents in the US when you have issues of racial tension, in the sense that when when an obvious crime has been committed, say by a police officer, people the system judges the actual event itself for its merit, and not the broader situation that is led to it. And people are
Dang, they got Tan's internet too. Man. Listen, if you are guys, press one if you can at least hear me right now. Press one if you can hear me. Cops, are you there? Okay. Press one if you can hear me. Press one. If you are South African, okay, if you are South African, you want to, because I see some South Africans in the chat room, you could come on. Again, email me. Yeah, Cops, you have a very bad lag. Like it's lagging. But guys, search for Uhuru at gmail.com. Search for Uhuru at gmail.com if you want to hop on, if you are South African. All right, Cops, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying that maybe, is it possible we can have the discussion via Hangouts? Maybe the connection will be better.
No, Hangouts is no longer. Hangouts is no more on YouTube. But finish your statement. In fact, start over. You were giving a response. Go ahead.
Yeah. The thing is, I wanted to address all the talking points one by one. I made a point about drug dealing in South Africa, how it's been proven that Nigerians are definitely involved, right? Now, I wanted to touch on the issue. Now, you talked about the excuses, right? And
Right.
how you mentioned that South Africans complain that they're taking jobs. You see, you got to look at it this way. It is a well-known fact that the whites are behind pretty much all this. They are to blame for the animosity that exists between South Africans and the foreigners. Look, most of the people who own corporations in South Africa, as you know, are white. Most of the people who own the means of production in South Africa are white. What they're doing is that they're giving jobs to foreigners, right? And some of them are even undocumented illegal immigrants. It's a fact, right? And they are paying them like the minimum wage, for instance, is 3,000 rand in South Africa a month. They're paying them below minimum wage, you see. And why it has escalated to this level right now is that the unemployment rate are mostly Zimbabweans, Congolese, Mozambicans, and Africans from other parts of the continent that have those jobs. And what the tensions, as far as the tensions and as far as the violence, they're making matters worse by calling South Africans stupid and lazy. You know, you spoke of Somali shop owners being attacked on the video you did just earlier. And
yes,
did you know? I mean, I as a customer, I've been called a slave. I've been called a Ubuntu monkey by Somalis. So they come into townships,
you
hoods.
know what? Let me stop you right there.
You see?
I've been called. I've been called the same thing. So I can't argue against that by Somali. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that just like Black Americans, there's a parallel between South Africans and Black Americans. Both of us, what we have in common, African Americans and South Africans, is that we've been oppressed for hundreds of years, right? We've got a common enemy. Now, African Americans have this thing too, that if foreigners come to you guys from foreigners, that's Africa. Like I said, I'll just elaborate on them towards the. I mean, there've been even cases where.
Hold on. I gotta stop you right there. Now, let me say this. Let me say this. Black Americans are nowhere as xenophobic as South Africans. So the foreigners who are coming to America and taking I guess, taking opportunities from Black Americans. We're not
Look, take for instance Detroit, right? Detroit, there's a lot of, and even other areas like Chicago, they are party stores, convenience stores owned by Arabs. Now, it has been reported in news for a long time that some Arab store merchants have been shot and killed by black customers. Now, there's a reason behind that. The Arabs, they treat black, and the type of people they treat poorly. Some of them, I mean, not thugs, but I mean, some of them are the type of people who won't take shit crap from anybody. You get what I'm saying?
Hold on, Cope.
We have this thing that if anyone messes with them, they'll shoot them, and
Cops, hold on. Your internet is going in and out. Brother Gaju.
Yo, Dennis, can you hear me?
Gaju, I hear you. Go ahead.
Caps is very confused, man.
Now, Gaju, where are you from? You're South Africa,
I'm in
right?
Cape Town. Yeah, I'm in Cape Town. I'm born and raised in Cape Town.
Okay, so you're black in Cape Town.
Yes, black as can be. Remember that?
Okay, Gaju, let me ask you this. Why aren't you guys, where's the xenophobia at in Cape Town? I've been to Cape Town.
Dynasty, can I just give like a brief description of just the psyche of black South Africans?
Go ahead, for people who don't know, but go ahead.
Dynasty, can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead. Go.
Okay, so basically, the two major black tribes in South Africa, which all fall under the Nguni nation, are the Zulus and the Xhosas. The Xhosas fought the longest war against colonization in South Africa in the 1800s, and we were defeated. After the English and the Dutch defeated us, they started pushing up to what you guys know as KwaZulu-Natal, which is modern-day Natal, which was at that time the Zulu nation. The first Anglo-Zulu wars were pretty much
Durban, right? That area.
Yes. In Durban, the first Anglo-Zulu wars were fought after Shaka Zulu died in the late 1820s. The first time that they fought the Zulus was in the 1830s with Shaka Zulu's successor, which was his half brother Dingaan. The Zulus were eventually defeated in the early 1900s. From that moment onwards, pretty much from the beginning of the 20th century onwards, black South Africans have been a conquered, defeated people. So all of this, all this animosity and vitriol that is being directed at Nigerians is basically a weak, pathetic attempt from our perspective as black South Africans to try and regain some type of manhood or take out our frustrations, because we're too scared. We are too scared to take on the white power structure and take on Dutch and the English, especially in Cape Town. So that's what this boils down to. It's got nothing to do with Nigerians. Everybody knows if you come to Cape, look, South Africa does not even have one elite black university. Like they have historically black universities like Fort Hare, where Nelson Mandela went to, and Walter Sisulu universities. But if you want to study STEM, if you want to specialize in something, you have to go to the white institutions of South Africa. Stellenbosch University, which is the hub of Afrikaner, Dutch power, University of Cape Town, which is where all the liberal whites go to. It's like, that's South Africa, like a country with like 85 or 90% black people, but we don't even have one black elite college or one black elite university. So all of this nonsense, this xenophobia stuff is not really new. This happened in high school. I remember the first time this started happening in like 2007, 2008.
Well, it's not that. It's just I keep hearing the deflection. So one day it's they're competing with us for jobs. The next day is, well, they're taking all our women. Now it's drugs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the goalposts.
Doesn't that sound like the ADOS?
Okay, let me say this now. But we can't put the ADOS in the same category because we're not. ADOS ain't xenophobic. Like ADOS.
No. I'm saying in terms of the excuses, Dennis. I'm trying to show you the psychology of it.
Okay.
Because ultimately, black South Africans, the reason they kill the foreigners or take it to the level of violence, they do that because they can. It's like what Dr. Amos Wilson used to say. when people pontificate or theorize on why white supremacy is practiced, and he'd go, some people think that white people do this because it's they have a genetic fear of annihilation. Some people think white people are the devil, but ultimately white people do what they do to black people because they can. That's the power dynamic that exists. So in South Africa, in America, it wouldn't be possible for no black person who's xenophobic to go and just start killing black people en masse. But in South Africa, they know they can do that because just the nature of the government and how corrupt the government are, and how unpoliced basically the ghettos of South Africa are. So they do that because they can. But I'm telling you, the psychology of it, the fact that they can wake up every morning, go work at a white job, or go do this these menial tasks for white people, and then come back and want to fight or kill another black person that looks just like them. We're just scared to take on white people. That's what it boils down to. That is the psychology of South Africans. Ever since the Dutch and the English defeated the Xhosas in the 100 Years' War, and then defeated the Zulus in the Anglo-Zulu Wars, we have never been the same. The majority of South Africans pray to white Jesus. They worship light skin. They completely indoctrinated and inculcated in the white Western mentality. That is our nature. That is our psychology. White supremacy permeates every fabric of South African life. So all of this anti-blackness is just self-hatred, nothing else.
Okay.
And I don't know what the hell Caps is on about.
All right, guys, let's get these likes up. We have almost 400 people watching. Please hit that like button. Hit that like button. Hit the like button as you come in. Now, I got Brother Tan, who's from Zimbabwe, on here. Now, Gaju. Now, the excuse or the scapegoat that I always hear when it comes to when I was traveling throughout East Africa, I would always run into South Africans, and the excuse on why South Africans are reluctant to take back control of their economy is because
Zimbabwe 2.0, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the Zimbabwe 2.0. The Zimbabwe is
Okay, continue. I'm listening.
I'm saying Zimbabwe is the scapegoat. So why has Zimbabwe became the scapegoat?
You see. Okay, you can go, Taps. You can go. I thought you was asking me.
So like you rightfully pointed out, Zimbabwe is on the end of the stick of white supremacy. Like, you can see what happens when you decide to go head on when it comes to fighting the system and getting your resources. So now, granted, Zimbabwe is not perfect. There are a lot of political concerns about what's going on in Zimbabwe, but unfortunately, those issues are used to further worsen, the situation when it comes to Zimbabwe's global position. And I feel, what happens in Zimbabwe is not only relevant for Zimbabwe, but as a region as a whole, because outside South Africa talking about, getting back their land, Namibia have also been, engaging in that. So, Zimbabwe represents, it's that symbol, and as such, it's unfortunately, the global white system, they get together to make sure that Zimbabwe will never succeed as a beacon for the region.
Okay. God, you explain the so this is a good question, but from James. Shout out to James. Jamal says the difference is ADOS is just on the internet. Okay.
I mean, they don't have machetes.
Right. Okay. Explain, God, you being a South African, explain the similarities you see between, and you're kind of going into it, between South Africans and see, I don't want to say ADOS. I want to say the Captain Black Americans. Captain Black Power Americans. Explain the similarities.
The similarities is basically, I mean, colonization is just a fancy word for slavery. So basically what happened in South Africa leading up to what they call apartheid, which only started in like 1948, once the white Dutch South Africans and the white Dutch South Africans came under one government in 1910, and then eventually started practicing this apartheid system. But before that, they were basically practicing slavery, which is exactly what happened in America. and this apartheid that they practiced pretty much coincided with what was happening in America with Jim Crow. So that psychology, that almost being like I don't even want to say a coon, but like this affinity, like being the house Negro, that house Negro mentality, that Captain America Negro, that whole lipsism talks about, that mentality is much more prevalent in South Africans and Americans because they have, historically, for almost 350 years in South Africa and 400 years in America. In South Africa since 1652, in America since 1619, they have always maintained a close proximity to white people. Misogyny. For example, Dynast, here's a classic example, right? In America, in America and in South Africa, to a lesser extent, in America, they classify mixed breeds as black.
Right.
Why do you think they do that?
Okay, let me ask. Look, give me your thoughts on that, because that's only an American black thing. Like everywhere else.
The reason they do it in America is because the white numbers are big enough to where if a white man rapes a black woman, he doesn't have to necessarily claim that mixed breed offspring as being white because the white numbers are already big enough in America. In South Africa, when the Dutch came here, they never used to sail with the women. So when they would rape the Malaysian slaves and they would rape the black women and they would produce these light-skinned offsprings, the ones who looked closest to white were often accepted as white, which is, if you look at Brazil, they do a very similar thing with the Portuguese there. They would accept the lighter skinned mulattoes or the lighter skinned mixed breeds as white to boost up the white numbers. So when it's convenient for them, and this was during colonization, but when it's convenient for them, they will accept mixed breeds as being white, even though they know they're not technically white because they know they can breed out the blackness, which is what they did in Australia with the genocide of the indigenous population over there. In America, they don't need to do that. The white numbers in America have always been or pretty much as large as the black population, and then as the years went on, they've even become much bigger. Like in the early 1900s, when they allowed all those Italians and Irish to flood America and all of that. So in America, they've never had to do that. So the only reason they even classify most mixed breeds in America as black is because they can afford to. But I'm just trying to show you like the similarities in terms of what white people did in South Africa is very much similar to what they did in America. It's that Captain America just like the fact, for example, South Africans refuse to basically take up an armed struggle against white people. They refuse. They will kill foreigners. We will beef amongst ourselves. Dinus, just as an anecdote, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, right? Mm-hmm. One of the potentially destabilizing things that was occurring in the early 90s in South Africa was this fake beef between the Zulus and the Xhosas. And there were no foreigners. There were no Nigerians or Zimbabweans in South Africa in the 80s and 90s. That was during apartheid. Just to show you that this psychology, this whole being dominated by white supremacy, but turning it on somebody that looks like you, it's been prevalent since long before foreigners got to South Africa.
So how do we move forward or move on from this? Because God, you know what I'm noticing now? The whole land reform debate, like that's disappeared.
Dynast, let me tell you something. I know you guys are big fans of Julius Malema, and I'm going to say anything against Malema.
People need to hear both sides.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The EFF. Okay, for example, the ANC, those are just bootlicking Uncle Tom niggas. They're not even in the discussion. Nothing good for black people is going to come from the ANC.
Like the Democratic Party here in America. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, they basically the gatekeepers for white supremacy. That's all the ANC is in South Africa. In fact, they're the rebranding of white supremacy because it was so blatant during apartheid that, white people are they run South Africa, they're the face of it. So they were like, okay, let's keep all the economic power. Let's not give these people a military, and then let's just put them in so-called political positions. And then when the country flubs, black people are going to go, well, we have a black president and a black. So, you know what I mean? You know that tactic, right?
Right. The Democratic Party, Maxine Waters, John Lewis, the Black Muley, in the Barack Obama, they all do the same shit here in America. So I completely agree. I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the
Yeah,
EFF?
but to answer, to, yeah, to answer your question, the the it's not even the EFF. Look, Julius Malema and the EFF have been talking this militant, Pan-Africanist talk pretty much since 2000, since they kicked Malema out of the ANC, which was like 2012, 2013 or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, when Malema was still in the ANC, when he was like the president of the Youth League, he was talking all this militant, we need to give it to the EFF. Does not even have a military branch. Like all that, yep. They don't even have like a these guys. They don't even have tasers. Like they don't. So when they talk about like as South Africans, we need to take back the land and all of this. It's like militarily. Once you do that, how are you going to protect that from the Western power structure? Because they're going to use NATO. They're going to use all these UN so-called peacekeeping forces. How are they actually going to do? If the EF hypothetically, if Julius Malema were to become president tomorrow, how would the EFF protect South Africa, either from some type of pseudo NATO, United Nations peacekeeping treaty, whatever military excuse that they would use, like they did with Muammar Gaddafi? How would they protect us against that?
Well, I would think that South Africans will rise up.
And
I would think South Africa.
But it's not even about the EFF. The EFF, Dinest, if you notice Julius Malema's rhetoric, for the most part, he targets the most disenfranchised South Africans because they're the ones that feel it the most. All of this coonery that the ANC has been doing, all of this privatization of all of South Africa's resources, and the pretty much 80% of the economy being in white hands and all of that. The regular black South Africans who kind of work for the government or have a degree and they have like a semi good paying job. They're the ones that don't want, they're the ones that are trying to avoid Zimbabwe 2.0. But the majority of black South Africans are already living in Zimbabwe 2.0. And for the most part, Julius Malema tends to target and direct his rhetoric towards those type of black people. But it's not backed by anything. It's just basically feel-goodism. It's basically the same stuff that was happening during civil rights, or even with the Black Panthers in the 70s. We're gonna give it to the man, power to the people. It sounds great, but it's like, where's the military? Where's your military force? Where's your, where geopolitically, where's your allies? South Africa is not controlled by black people on any conceivable level. All of this nonsense that you see going on in this country is going to keep happening. And now I know a lot of the ADOS guys, they go, how come, how you guys live in a country that's like 85% black or 90% black and you're being dominated by a white population that's less than 4%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, my answer, not even to defend the coonery happening here, but it'd be, well, 90% of the planet Earth is non-white. How is 90% of the planet? How are 1.5 billion Africans globally being dominated by white people who are less than 800 million collectively on the planet? How is that possible? In other words, when has population numbers ever dictated who is strong militarily? Japan in World War II was quite strong. Japan consists of what, 4 tiny islands? It's not about population numbers. Nigeria, how big is Nigeria? What's the population of Nigeria? Like 300 million or something crazy?
Almost 200 million.
Well,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they were dominated by the British.
So you raise a very valid point in terms of Julius Malema's position. So I mean, part of it is he has the moral the moral high ground in terms of what he's talking about. And if you really look back, right, if you stand back and say, okay, you're talking about where are the allies and where's the force. If you look at it as a South African situation, right, clearly,
yeah,
your back's against the wall. But if you look at it as the whole of Africa with a moral high ground, then you'll kind of understand why we say there's a hidden force behind these tensions between other African countries, because in light of where we think we're going with a unified position when it comes to African trade, one passport, those kind of moves are moves that would definitely create that force you're talking about when we're talking about taking control of the resources. And in my opinion, it's not an event where you're simply saying we don't have the guns to fight the Boers. It's a process. It takes, you have to win the minds before you can actually have people being prepared. So in other words, if you are looking at it, taking a step back, you'll realize that instead of us focusing on the attacks or South Africans being so myopic in looking at it as, oh, it's about jobs, it's about crime. If you step back a little bit, you then realize that what you're supposed to be doing is strengthening the relationships with other African countries, so you can improve your position to negotiate. You can improve your position to influence, the resources, the way resources are being managed in South Africa. Maybe not for this generation, but certainly for the next generation.
Hold on, stop the show real quick. Guys, first of all, we have almost 500 people watching. Please hit that like button. Please hit the like button. Let me read this. Thereof the justification of a black majority continent being dominated in their own land. But ADOS was actually a minority in their land and built a superpower that all globally flocked to. What superpower did we build? Better yet, what superpower do we control? KR, I need you to I don't understand your comment. Like we talk about built a superpower. We don't control it. We control nothing in it. Why are we bragging about building something that we don't control? I mean, come on. KR, what decisions can ADOS make that will, in regards to the U.S. government, that can impact people globally? Nothing. We don't control anything. We were free slave labor, and all I'm saying is cut me my check that you owe so I can keep it pushing.
White man's ice is colder.
But like I said, we don't control any of it. What are you talking about? We built a superpower that we absolutely don't control any of the power. That makes absolutely no sense. All right, go ahead.
Dinus, you need to be a little bit more gentle, because as Neely Fuller says, we're all prisoners in this system, and unfortunately, people are
Dinus, can I ask you a question?
So
go ahead. But I'm just saying, like, I understand that we built America, but we don't control anything in it. So what are we talking about? We don't control it. But go ahead, Gadri.
Yeah.
I mean, hold on, stop the show. Just 4 months ago, Nipsey Hussle got killed. Oh, the CIA killed Nipsey Hussle.
Can I ask you a question?
The FBI killed Nipsey Hussle. Per ADOS.
Where has this, because this ADOS,
we should be able to control the CIA, but we don't. We don't control anything in this place called America. So stop acting like that's all I'm saying. We do not control anything in this country called the United States of America. So stop pretending and acting like we do. All right, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Got you. Go ahead. You guys there?
What is so difficult, not just with Black South Africans? What is so difficult, not just with Black South Africans, but can you hear me, Dinus?
I hear you. Go ahead. I hear you.
Dinus, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead. Go. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. But my question is, what is so difficult with blacks, not just Black South Africans, but just Black people within the entire diaspora of planet Earth, whether it's North America, whether it's Jamaica, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Colombia, whether it's Ghana, whether it's Nigeria. What is so difficult with framing the narrative or centering our entire struggle around attaining power? Not trying to get compensation for colonization, or trying to get some reparations that they're going to take away in 50 years, or trying to get a black school where then those black kids that graduate from that black school then basically have to beg for jobs into a white. Why can't we center our entire discussion, whether you want to stay in America, whether you're a nationalist, whether you're a Pan-Africanist, why can't our entire conversation be centered around acquiring power?
Because we've been taught that power isn't important. Like here, okay, so here in America, so black Americans post integration, you know, we were sold this the same way you guys are sold the Rainbow Nation. We were sold that we all minorities and all people of color, and you know, we all have to be nice to each other, and we have to look out for everybody, and you know, being powerful is being greedy, and you know, I've literally heard black people say here in America,
on a landmass, on a North American landmass predicated by a genocide. But go ahead.
Right, but I've heard black Americans say, ADOS, I kid you not, that because we are the original people on this earth and that everyone comes from us, that we have to be nice to everybody, even though everyone's screwed over. And that's been pretty much the rationale amongst the black diaspora. Wherever you go, we just have to be nice to everybody. And we have this misconception that if you're powerful, you're evil. Like power and evil goes hand in hand. That we can't be powerful because if we're powerful, then we're not nice people.
Dinus, I have you know, slightly different take on where it comes from.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
And for you asked the global African people, that's because we don't count. Let me explain. If you're familiar with the works of Edwin Nichols, Dr. Edwin Nichols, he basically breaks down the difference between European and African you know, model of knowledge. So the European system is based on polarity. That is the ability to you know, divide things based on good and evil, winner and loser, right? And the highest value of any achievement is based on what you can count and measure. That's the European model, and that's the global system in which we live in. But the African model is based on Ubuntu, which is the relationship, managing the relationship. So the highest value is in what our relationship is. Now that's an asset, but it's also a liability in a system that we're in, because you talked about power being evil, right? And that's because power is measured in a system of right and wrong. Power is measured by the European model, which is if you have power, you're right, and if you don't have power, you're wrong, right? So when we come about, we fall victim. That is things like religion. They work against our belief system in the relationship, managing the relationship. I cannot be absolutely powerful as an individual. I can only be powerful if that power manages the relationship between us. So he goes into depth in terms of explaining the psychology and the psychopathy of you know, these two different systems. So if you think about it, take that into where our positions globally as African people, wherever we are, you'll realize that we're constantly trying to manage the relationship, but still have this identity of right and wrong, and this identity of counting as the highest measure being imposed upon us, and we're always, you know, falling behind in terms of trying to catch up with the system. But we can never be masters of this system. As you know, Neely Fuller said, the white supremacists are the masters of the system, and the only way we can do it is by literally creating a system that doesn't work with the approach of the highest value being the good and the two polar system. As Neely Fuller says, it's about justice, and justice is about managing relationships. Now, is that attainable? It's maybe not in this generation, but the idea is we can't keep chasing after a rabbit that we can never catch.
All right. Got you. Did that answer your question? Got you. Hello. Oh, brother got that Metro PCS out there in Cape Town. They got the Metro PCS hotspots in Cape Town now.
Can I push back on that?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Of course, we want you to. Hello.
Can I push back on that, Dana?
Yeah. Go ahead. There must be delay. I'm saying
yeah. Can I just push back on that a bit?
Go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yo, Dennis, can you hear me, man?
Yes, we hear you. Everyone, yes.
Can you hear me though?
Are you trolling me?
Brother Dennis, can you hear me?
Yes, are you trolling me?
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to push back. I just wanted to push back on what he's saying a bit. Why is it that black people why is it that black people, when it comes to power, or when this is it's cutting up a bit.
You got that yeah, you got that Metro PCS hotspot out there in Cape Town. That's what that is.
It's cutting up.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We hear you. Go ahead.
I guess Ross is trying to, come back in. What I will say is it's very important to understand the words that we use. So to define the words that we use. For instance, when we talk about power, like what does power mean? Is it just a state or a position, or it's the ability to use your position to achieve a certain means, right? In most cases, we value power and define it when it's actually a means to an end, but we look at that means as if that is the end. So, I guess it's important to always use the right definition, or, provide context.
Yo, Danish, I'm going to drop out and come back.
Say that again. Got you. Hello.
What just happened? Oh.
Okay. He had to. He logged off. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
So with that in mind, I would definitely want to say, the solution for the current situation in South Africa is to face. A lot of South Africans need to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that they are traumatized people. Mm-hmm. And that trauma, hurt other people, but it's only South Africans at this point who can really change the mindset of their fellow South Africans to value life, because it's a problem that is internalized with a lot of domestic violence, and the only reason why it becomes an international issue is because you're attacking nationalities of other people who have the potential to retaliate, right? But in reality, it's an internal grieving that's going on because of a system that's broken. So, as much as we can, condemn and label South Africans as violent, which is wrong because it's only part of those South Africans that are violent. But essentially, it's also South Africa as a whole, South Africans as a whole, that need to be able to speak out and act against the violence that's happening, that's being perpetrated by their fellow South Africans.
Okay, I'm not going to start today. All right, guys, make sure you hit that like button as you come into the chat room. Kagizo, Miggy B, I sent you the link. Again, a lot of you guys are asking for the link. Diamond, send me the link. Send me the link. I seen your link. You never come on. So I got the link is out there. I've emailed you back. Those who have emailed me, I have emailed you back with the link. So I'm just waiting for you guys to hop on. So. Okay, Gaju's back. Gaju, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Nigerians, they looted my connection.
Oh, the Nigerians. Oh, so the Nigerians' fault that your connection don't work?
Yeah, they looted it, guys. I couldn't do anything.
We need to bring Glow. We need to bring Glow wireless to South Africa and get rid of that MTN. That's what it is. You need Glow. Well, listen, Glow is black owned. See, somebody in the chat room was saying that the Nigerian economy was dominated by the British. Nigeria is the most blackest country on the planet as far as the majority of the resources, industries, businesses, black owned, black dominated. Glow Wireless, black owned. You got the black. In fact, let's do this. Google Nigerian billionaires and Google South African billionaires. I'll rest my case. But Nigeria is not perfect, but Nigeria is doing pretty well. We have a long way to go, but we're doing very good, and I'm very proud. All right, go ahead. Gaju. Hello? Gaju.
Yeah. Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to push back on the point that the brother was making. Why is it that black people globally, why must we be burdened with establishing justice for humanity? Like, what is this universalist? It's almost like this. I call it the remnants of white Jesus. This Messiah complex that we have to struggle and go through everything that we went through, colonization, slavery, and at the end of it, at the end of the rainbow, we have to establish justice for all humanity. It's not that I'm not interested in justice, but I'm a realist. Hispanic mixed breeds are anti-black. Asians are anti-black. Indians are anti-black. Even mulattoes, they know that their eyes are green. They know that their hair is frizzy. They are anti-black. So why is it that black people, for whatever reason, we are designated as the people or the main people on the planet who have to basically fight racism, fight white supremacy?
Yeah, take the higher road.
Take the high road. Why?
More higher ground. Yeah.
Yeah, but what kind of psychology is that? That is literally like white Jesus. Even the people who quote unquote have rejected Christianity, I still feel like it's a subconscious internalization of we too scared to do what needs to be done to achieve what we need to achieve. Whether it's to kill people, whether it's to organize a military coalition with other with other black conscious, whatever we have to do. As Malcolm X used to say, by any means necessary. We seem to be in this whole, oh no, we gotta vote. I don't understand that psychology, even with Neely Fuller. And I agree with 99% of everything Neely Fuller says. But at the end of it, he goes, yeah, we gotta establish justice on the planet and be universal man and universal. When the hell, I don't even want to swear, but when have you ever seen that in humanity? In the history of mankind, where has that ever existed, Diamonds?
It's never existed.
Yeah, are we trying to establish power, the ability to have resources for you and your offspring and be able to protect them from anybody else? Is that what you're trying to establish, or are you trying to fix the planet and make sure that the sharks are kissing the seals? I don't understand that. I don't understand that psychology. It exists everywhere. It's not just in South Africa. It's this whole rainbow nation nonsense. In America, it's this whole integrationalist nonsense. In Brazil, it's this assimilado nonsense where they all think they Brazilians and everybody's trying to become this light-skinned, mixed breed hybrid. That is basically the image of what I don't understand that mentality in Black people. It makes no sense. It is illogical for you to try and assimilate or even establish some a system of justice with people who literally practice multiple genocides on different continents. It's like that's what they do. Australia is the whitest continent on the planet. How did it get like that? Right where I am in South Africa, I've never even seen a Khoisan or a Khoi person at the shop. They don't exist.
Mm.
And cats want to come here and talk about establishing justice. Shit is illogical. It's like, get real. If you're scared of white people, say so. I'm scared too. I'm scared too. But if you too scared to be able to fight and die for what you believe in, stop coming at us with all this nonsense. Talking about vote for this, vote for that. We not Africans. We Zulu. Because that's what ADOS actually reminds me of. In South Africa, you have a lot of Black people who, in our attempt to get away from our Africanness, will identify with the tribe that they're from as a means to distance oneself from the rest of Africa. So it's like, well, Nigerians and Ghanaians and the derogatory term from them in South Africa is Kwerekweres. So they the Kwerekweres, but I'm Zulu. They the Kwerekweres, but I'm Xhosa. You know, it's those Africans, but I'm a copper-colored Moor. You know, it's this that is retarded. That is literally a defeated people, psychologically devastated people who have internalized anti-blackness to such an extent that they will literally commit genetic genocide against themselves or kill anybody else who looks like them. That makes no sense. Why are you burdened with trying to establish justice on the planet? Why isn't some type of Black autonomy, some type of Black power, and not just saying that, not just catchphrases like, hey, power to the people, Black, no, not that nonsense, real Black power. Studying geopolitics, you know? How did Japan, and Japan is not even a good example, but how did white people attain power as a numeric minority on the planet? Coming from a Europe, which is very deficient in resources, how did those kind of people attain power and stay in power for damn near 500 years and counting? Why aren't we studying history from that perspective?
Oh, we got here we go. Village Boy, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Donnie? It's Amir. How you doing today?
I'm good. You got some background noise in the background. Well, you got background noise.
All right, let me just step outside real quick so that way you guys won't hear the background noise.
Okay. Yeah, I hear them midday the midday infomercials, the midday ITT Tech. If you at home right now, if you want to get a degree in making cakes,
He's scamming white women.
come to ITT Tech. I hear them ITT Tech infomercials in the background.
Well, you damn right.
All right, go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
All right. So basically, I wanted to dive in the question about globally Africans. Why or Black people? Let me not just say Africans, but Black people in general. Why are they not in any kind of position of power? There's many ways you can look at this. Because look at this. Globally, I mean, what do the Africans? Where's the power? There's no globally. We as people, we may look at that as a power. In terms of human resource, but power consists more than just human resources. You know, where's the military that we can say, okay, globally, we have this military that will back us up. Just look at like Russians. It don't matter where they go globally, they always know that Russia got their back, and Russia is not a quitter. They're down to go to the extreme to make sure they are now misrepresented. I'm talking about Russia as, I'm not just talking about just a country in Russia. I'm talking about Russia and also as you know, I mean, being a Russian. Like Africans, me, I'm from South Sudan, and I get asked this question a lot. Like, hey, where you from? And I stuttered a few times because I'm finding myself identifying as in Sudanese. It kind of just isolate myself as an African. So often I find myself pondering about that. So I think power. One thing that I don't want to say the white man, but I don't know. I want to say a spell that came up on black people is that we scattered. We scattered, and we don't have the pride to stand regardless of our differences. You know what I mean? To stand together. Like what's going on in South Africa. You have Africans attacking other Africans while the enemy's there watching and plotting. And who knows? Maybe the enemy was behind everything that is going on. That I'm just speaking loosely on that. But power power has to do with the people, and if the people aren't willing to come together as Africans or black, then you can kiss power goodbye, because I see it here in the United States. I see, in the United States, you can break it down in terms of what hood are you from. You know what I'm saying? You could be from um this hood, and you can't go to this side of town because you from that hood, and if you're not from any of those hoods, you can't be from any of them, or you won't be reputable. And at the same time, you have the government, the police, who's running the whole show, and they have a license to kill you. But yet you wanna gang bang and claim something that, at the end of the day, when the government want to shut it down, they can shut it down with quickness. That's the same thing that's going on in Africa. You have Africans, I'm speaking for Sudanese. You have Sudanese want to be only Sudanese, but they don't want to identify the Kenyan brothers or the Ugandan brothers, or they might identify with the Kenyan brothers in the Ugandan brothers, but still not look at them as equal or even greater, because you know what I mean. It's our ideology. Our ideology, again, I guess it comes down to education. Lack of education in ideology,
Can,
that causes a
can
lot
I
of
ask
us
you a
to,
question?
yeah.
The Sudanese cat. Can I ask you a question?
What's up,
And
man?
I have a vague understanding of Arab or Arabic domination of Africa from like the 700 onwards till the coming of the Europeans in the 1400s, just vaguely, like Tunisia, Eritrea, the Egypt, modern day Libya, and all those places. I
Right,
know Arabs got as far as Sudan.
right,
How from the very few Sudanese people that I've had, not just Sudanese but Somalians,
right.
uh, is it true, or maybe you can just clarify it for not just for me but for all of us?
Uh-huh.
A lot of those so-called black people in the Sudan, in Somalia, they kind of identify as almost like honorary Arabs.
Hey, I'm gonna keep it 100, like 100 with you. That's absolutely true. That's what it is.
In fact, hold on. But that there's a saying that a Sudanese girl once told me. They're black enough. They're not black enough to be Arab, and they're not Arab enough to be black.
Man, put it like this. I think
Wow.
like our parents, parents, the always, I don't know what is that caused like the either Somalians or Sudanese, any country that in Africa that is was once dominated by an Arab nation, seems to admire their culture at times more than their own. And
That,
and and, and growing up, you have to understand, taking the Islamic way, it kind of takes you deep into the, you know what I mean, to the Arabian psyche, their way of living. And I think it all comes down to their God, because once you can, I don't want to say Islam is a religion that is not good, because me myself, I was born and as Muslim. However, as I got older, I went to Christianity. From Christianity to now, I'm just a spiritual being. You know, I identify with the spiritual person in me. You know what I mean? God is in everybody. You know, God doesn't have to be, or you don't have to subscribe to any particular denomination to be identified with God. I think God is in each and everybody, and is, you know what I mean? It's at the individual level for somebody to identify with their God. But
can I ask you
yeah.
another question, man?
Okay, let's do this.
When,
I got you. Let's
okay.
do this. Go ahead and ask the question. Then you want to get back to the South African
Yeah,
topic.
with the South African thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
as a
but go
Sudanese.
ahead.
Okay, as a Sudanese, right?
Right.
Have you now when you were in Sudan, I'm sure you lived with literally actual Arabs
Right.
or a big enough population. Have you noticed the same anti-blackness that Arabs have, the same anti-black sentiments that they have towards the darker skinned or the actual Africans? Have you
Oh
noticed
man.
those? No. What I'm
Wow.
asking is, have you noticed those same sentiments that with now that you're in America that white people have for the black people in America? Is there like a correlation there? Is there
Hold on. So,
what
so
are the
what you saying?
similarities?
So what you saying? Have I noticed any hatred towards? I mean, from the Arabs to the darker complexion Sudanese in correlation with Arabs here in the United States?
Basically, are they racist towards the black people just like the white people are racist towards the black people in
Even
other
worse.
places?
Even worse at times. Like me. I like the Arabs. You didn't want to be around. I don't know by now. I haven't been there about 5 years, but that time when I was in Sudan, you know, you didn't want to be around Arab people because Arab people, they, you know, they all the stuff that been happening like in my country particularly, it has to do with Arabs. So the Arabs, you know, some might be cool with you, and you know, because you speak the language Arabic, whatnot, but deep down rooted in their blood, the Arabs don't really care for the black people, and the racism is real, and because they see themselves as better than, you know, the darker complexion Africans, and don't get them misconstrued that you know we Muslim and all that. We supposed to love our Arab people. Nah, man. I seen what the Arab people do, bro, and what they done. I witnessed, you know, I seen, like, you know, the massacres, the civil war. I seen all that, and the Arab people, they got a big role to, you know, playing in that, and also in turning, like, say, I'm Kakwa and Dinka and Nuer, you know what I mean, turning them against each other so they can come in and sweep. But I, like, again, I don't want to take the, you know, topic away from what's going on in South Africa. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, bro. That's something that is very, what you ask is very real.
All right, cops, you're back on. Is your audio fixed?
Oh man, cops.
Cops.
Yeah, we
Cops.
yeah, cops. Cops is confused.
Cops.
Go ahead, Cops.
Is that a gentleman from South
Yeah.
Africa with the
Yeah, what's
metro
up?
piece of shit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's me, man.
Yeah.
Cops. Go ahead. Cops. Go ahead, cops.
You know the struggle. I'm here. What's up? Yeah, I'm here. Dennis, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah. I was just there's there's a South African dude that's on
I can't hear it.
just want to come down to
That's the Obama phone.
how in South Africa.
That's the Malema phone.
Cops, we're trying to hear you, man. Just the connection is bad, brother. But we're trying. We're gonna work through it. Bro. We're gonna work through it. We see what we need to do. We need to
Go
bring
rise up.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
wireless glow
I'm just saying
to
that
South Africa. That's what we need to get you. We need to get you a
the
glow.
guy who's on who's talking really much right now. Be honest about what's really happening in South Africa. That's what I'm saying. Can you hear me?
Who's not being honest? Yeah, we can hear you. Who's not being honest, brother?
you're the South. Why don't you just tell them about what? The reason why these things are not getting solved is that politicians, you know very well that the politicians, this is all happening under their nose. That politicians are corrupt. We've got corrupt police, and who are being bribed by criminals that are from other African countries. That's why they get away with this. We've got corruption is destroying the country of South Africa. You don't want to admit that. That's the problem.
Who doesn't?
Bro, I've been pretty much shitting on.
Tell Diners that majority of us South Africans were because they were who came from Malawi, who were mine workers. They were living with in the township, some of them, and we got along with them. This is really what this comes down to, is that we've got a bad economic, we've got an economic crisis in South Africa.
It's not only South Africa, man. It's all over Africa, brother. All over, literally.
Is white employers who hire foreigners and then pay them less than South Africans. They don't want to hire South Africans. Let's just be honest. They want to, and that's what's creating this animosity. And again, a lot of South Africans in South Africa are lazy. They're calling us lazy. They're calling us stupid. All the South Africans can attest to this. You as a South African, it's your responsibility. The truth out there, man.
Okay.
Stop being.
Okay.
It seems you're the one who's being.
Where you from, brother?
The truth.
Where you from?
Go ahead.
Where are you from?
No, I'm from Johannesburg.
You from Soweto? So. Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah. So you saying that what is happening? Because what I was trying to establish was to give them a historical understanding of where the psyche, where does the psychology come from? Xenophobia was. I was in high school. Let's talk about the present. That's like an American. That's like a black person in America. That's like a black person in Brazil talking about how did I end up in Brazil? But let's discuss the truth.
Tell the truth, brother.
This connection is so bad.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the truth? That's why he's on your show. That's why you're on his show.
Okay, I gotta hold on. Okay, I had to. The connection's too bad. But at the end of the day, guys, he keeps bringing up this dynamic that the white corporate structure is hiring cheap non-South African labor. And the point I keep making is, how is the white corporate...
Okay, now, let me tell you...
How is the white corporate structure still dominant when the country, when there's such a small minority? That's the root of the issue that no one wants to, that I keep, people...
Nobody wants to address, right? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Why? People that don't know, because you're the historian. When Nelson, okay, this is my question. Nelson Mandela was in prison for how long? What, 25 years?
Yeah, 27 actually.
Okay, 27.
But pretty much he went to prison in the mid 60s and he was released in the late 80s.
Okay, now I keep hearing rumors that there had to be a deal. Like, Nelson, we're gonna let you go.
No, I'll break that down for you. For you.
Go ahead. Hey guys, before that, we have almost 500 people watching. Guys, please hit that like button, okay? Please hit the like button. All right, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, listen. Nelson Mandela was officially announced to the public in South Africa, and not just the public, but globally to the world news and all of that in 1990. His official release is that he was released in 1990, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what people don't know is that Mandela was actually released 4 years prior in 1986. Nelson Mandela and some of the top branch of the ANC at the time started having, I can't even call it negotiations, but what it really was a way for white people to begin to privatize, because they knew that the majority black, if it went to an election, the majority black party, which was the ANC, would win the election. So they were like, okay, we cannot have a black nation that will have access to nuclear weapons, that will have access to basically all this infrastructure that we've used their slave labor to build up for ourselves. So they privatized a large chunk of, like, for example, there's a company in South Africa, semi-private company in South Africa. For example, the main telecommunications company in South Africa is Telkom. Telkom used to be a state company. Sasol, which makes a lot of renewable energies and all of that, that used to be a state company. Most of those companies, not just the telecommunications, not just the minings, not just all of those were privatized during that 4-year period from 1986 of Mandela's actual release till about 1990. Okay, that's what happened in South Africa. So all that nonsense about economically black people don't have anything and white people run the economy, but the black people are the majority. The jig was already on when people were celebrating Mandela and how what a great achievement it was that he brought the Rainbow Nation to they had already hoodwinked us. That's the legacy of. In fact, South Africa is the only country in the world to have willingly given up its nuclear arsenal. Now, who did that? The whites did that right before the black government came into power. They sold those nuclear warheads. So I'm just trying to give you a historical understanding of what happened in South Africa. When people talk about we are a majority black people in South Africa are under the same white supremacist conditioning and indoctrination as anybody else on the planet. They have light-skinned fetishism. They pray to white Jesus. They relax their hairs. They watch the same American, or not even American, the same Hollywood production, white propagandists as all the other black people. Skin bleaching in Jamaica is a massive issue. Skin bleaching in South Africa is a massive issue. Now, in places like America and Brazil, you guys get to procreate with mixed breeds, so you can just do genetic skin bleaching, but all of that comes from being dominated by white supremacy. I don't understand this concept of if people are a majority or a minority in a place, that's how somehow going to change the power dynamic. Because lastly, Giannis, before I give you back the wings, in colonization, right? When the Portuguese, for example, when they used to take over Angola, when the French used to take over all the Francophone Gabon, Cote d'Ivoire, when the English took over Nigeria, were they not the minority? All they had was a stronger military, a more organized military force. You do not have to be a majority to control people. Even in a prison, the prison warden and the guards are not the majority of that prison population, but they have a system in place. Now, I'm not defending black South Africans. We should still rise up. We should still overthrow white people and become a Zimbabwe 2.0. But what you're going to get is that they are too scared. Black South Africans are pussy. And I make no apologies about that word. They are pussy. They are too scared to kill white people. They have internalized white supremacy, internalized white Jesus. That the thought of killing a white person to achieve our political, economic, just our entire means to destroy white supremacy in South Africa, we do not have that. We do not have the gall, we do not have the balls, we do not have whatever you want to call it, we don't have it. So all of that nonsense about killing Nigerians and killing Somali, all of that stems from, number one, self-hatred, but it also stems from the frustration. The guy in Soweto is saying that I didn't tell the truth. How more truthful can it get? I'm telling you what it is. I'm telling you the psychology of it. I'm telling you that they pussy. I'm telling you that all of that comes from I'm telling you what the ANC did to get us into this situation. I'm telling you. It's like, what is the guy talking about? Black South Africans will never, ever in 1,000 years kill white people. They are too white identified.
Okay, so
that is the truth.
So, guys, what you're saying is everything was pretty much state-owned. They brought Mandela out of prison and said, hey, this is how we're going to roll everything over. This is how everything's going to be ran, and we'll put you in power. So then what was state-owned, they put it into white private hands. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and if Mandela had said no to that, he would have gotten Patrice Lumumba. He would have been Thomas Sankara. That's what would have happened. They would have killed him. It's either we were going to stay in apartheid, or they were going to basically give us a bunch of Uncle Toms. That's it. That was black people's in South Africa. That was our options. And if we did anything to rise up against that, we were going to become another Zimbabwe, which we should. Like, I mean, what is the point? It's like when people go apartheid ended in South Africa, and I'm like, when? When did the power dynamic between the majority black population and white population in South Africa change? When did that happen? Don't call it apartheid, don't call it colonizing. The power dynamic. Who has the resources? Who's got access to the resources? Who's got the military? Who's got the geopolitical connections? When did that power dynamic switch? It has never switched since 1652. And all of this nonsense with all this nonsense that's happening now, the xenophobia, is a result of that. It's anti-blackness. It's an internalized self-hatred. How blatant must I put it?
Yeah. All right, Shaka Ra, go ahead, bro.
Greetings, family, and yeah, thanks for hosting this very important conversation. Yeah, I just want to start by saying condolences, you know, I'm saying, to the brothers, the families of the brothers and sisters who have lost their lives, because I understand some people have actually lost their lives and some others have just been harassed and aggressed, and it's a very sad situation. And I am concerned by not necessarily just this conversation, but some of the conversations that I've been hearing, because I feel like we're singling out South Africa as though what we're seeing there is unique to South Africa, and we don't have these problems anywhere else in the rest of the diaspora. And I think whilst, you know, this thing has hit the news, and we should all be shocked and appalled, and we should all ask the question as to why the situation in South Africa stands as a stark reminder of what colonialism looks like, because a white minority still dominates, the majority of the economy. We should all flag up that contradiction in terms of what is it about us that we're willing to enact violence against each other, but we fail to really pursue correct justice in relation to those who have truly oppressed us. That is a relevant thing. But that contradiction is not unique to Africans in South Africa. And I also want to point out the fact that we're dealing with a group among South Africans, not South Africans in general, because there are people like the economic freedom fighters, as led by Julius Malema, who have actively spoken out from a longer time against what is going on. And I mean very explicitly spoken out against what's going on. We have people from the Pan-African Congress of Azania who are still there, who are speaking out and active in the community and promoting African unity. So we don't want to paint our brothers and sisters in South Africa with one single brush, but in doing that, we don't want to just promote the fact that there is violence going on. If there are voices and groups and organizations speaking out and acting in opposition to this repugnant situation, then we also need to flag up their names and their voices and make sure that they are heard, because the Western media is not going to promote the voices of people like Julius Malema and other Pan-African activists on the ground in Azania, South Africa. So that's our job. We are responsible for doing that. I want to put it forward to the conversation that there is no African country. There is no African country that controls and owns the majority of its resources and its economy. None whatsoever. What's it called? The nation that made the biggest strides in terms of explicitly pursuing a justice agenda in terms of economics in recent years is that of Zimbabwe, and even that they're trying to roll it back at the moment. And that's not to say, and that's not to say that there's nothing positive going on in any other African nations. You can think of some things that are going on positive in places like Eritrea, and even to Ethiopia. I've heard of some positive movements on certain things in Zambia. You know what I'm saying, and even Nigeria. But there is no African nation, but that doesn't manifest the contradiction of violence towards each other to some degree, whilst foreign companies, white people in general, dominate the economy, either via a white minority on the land or by proxy, because European nations and European institutions, European multinationals, and when I say institutions, I'm including institutions like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, dominate the economies. A lot has been said about, because this is the brothers and sisters in South Africa that are currently being aggressed are from Nigeria. But prior to the Nigerians, it was people from Zimbabwe. Yes, right. But in Nigeria today, there is a massive situation, an ongoing situation that has been a contradiction for decades in relation to the Niger Delta. Yes, and the Ogoni people and others who have been fighting for justice. And for some reason, the Nigerian government doesn't seem to be able to advocate and pursue justice on behalf of its own citizens, because foreign multinational companies, oil companies in particular, have basically held the government to ransom. Yeah, and so we need to realize that this is an African problem. Yeah, it's not a South African problem.
Let me say this, Shaka, in regards to, you brought up the Niger Delta. Now, you brought up the what was the name of the people?
Ogoni people, and that's
okay, the Ogoni people. Now, their leader back when Sonny Abacha was in power was assassinated. Correct? This is back.
Yes.
Okay, but this is the problem with that. Now, this is what's going on. You know, it's kind of like in America where you have the Democrats and the Republicans. You know, who's gonna screw who over, and they fight for votes to decide who's gonna screw who over. Now, the guy who was assassinated, he was no angel either. And I'm not trying to justify what's going on in the Niger Delta, but I just had to put that out there as if if he would have gotten the power,
shake your point though. What do you mean he wasn't no angel?
What I mean is he wasn't for the best interest of the people in the Niger Delta. He was, at the end of the day, for himself as well.
Okay, I'm not. I would need some evidence as to what you're talking about there. What I'm saying, to be honest with you, but the point is that the fight of the people of the Niger Delta, Ken Saro-Wiwa or no Ken Saro-Wiwa, is a just one, and there are many just people that are fighting for the freedom of the people of the Niger Delta. Yeah. So even if what you're saying about Brother Ken is correct, yeah, what the people are fighting for and Ken Saro-Wiwa was assassinated in the 90s, I believe. Yeah,
late 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, right. What's it called? So and the fight has still gone on since then. My point is that it's not as though the Nigerian society in general and the Nigerian government in particular have seen fit, to advocate and pursue justice on behalf of its citizens who have an obviously just grievance. Yeah. So what I'm saying, and the problem there is, the contradiction there is the fact that oil money in Nigeria is big business, and the government has been bought off by foreign oil companies since the 70s at least. Yeah, and so what I'm saying is that what we see in South Africa, the contradiction of Africans being unable to unseat and relinquish the influence of Europeans, in relation to our economies, is not unique to South Africa. And so we shouldn't single out South Africa as though this is the South Africans and their inability to address this problem. This is an Africa-wide problem. It's a problem in the Congo. It's a problem in Rwanda. It's a problem in Zimbabwe. It's a problem in Somalia. It's a problem in the whole of North Africa. Right? This is what I'm saying. Yeah, it's a problem all about the place. It's a problem in the so-called French-speaking West African, African nations who are still paying 60% of their GDP into the French bank. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I don't think we can and in relation to this thing, because I hear this thing a lot. You know, I don't know why there are some people in Nigeria or from Nigeria who believe that Nigeria is so far ahead of the rest of Africa when it comes to economics. I'm sure people that share and
brother, I've been to 15 African countries. I've been to 15 countries, and I've been to 15 countries in Africa.
Yeah.
From what I've observed,
yes,
as far as control and ownership, Nigeria is by far, and again, I keep saying this, the blackest in regards to ownership country on the planet.
Let me ask you a question. Is there violence, African upon African violence in Nigeria?
Yeah, I mean, it's going on right now in the north.
Right. Yeah.
Shaka, what is your point?
What's my point? I've been stating the point clearly. I'm saying that
no, but I want to respond to what you're saying.
Got you. Let Brother Tan respond, because Tan he's been quiet. Brother Tan, do you want to add to this?
The thing is, what's being provided is really the observation. I prefer to focus on us saying, okay, this is what's being observed, so this is how we move forward. And to that point, I feel there are certain codes of conduct that need to be enforced, and there are bodies, for instance, the SADC bodies that should be stronger and impose stronger sanctions for certain behaviors. So I feel that's a strong stepping point for what's going on in South Africa. SADC needs to come forward and make strong positions and be able to enforce those positions.
All right, Gadru, you wanna add?
No, I just want to. I want to clarify what is Shaka trying to like. What is so he's basically saying, okay, there's corruption in Nigeria. There's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of contradictions going on in Nigeria. It also exists in the Congo. It also exists in South Africa. But now, what is the point?
I'm trying to say that that the issue, the contradictions that we see in South Africa, yes,
yeah,
the broader context that feeds, yeah, and informs what we are seeing, the atrocious situation that we are seeing right now, that we are witnessing at the moment, is not an issue that is unique to South Africa. Yeah, it's not is unique to South Africa. So I'm saying that it is an Africa problem. I don't think it's helpful for Africa.
But Shaka,
1 second, please. Let me just complete the sentence. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's correct for Africans outside of South Africa to say, look at these South Africans, yeah, and their savagery. Look at their inability to take back their land and resources from white people, as though the rest of the continent has shown and demonstrated the way forward in this regard. This is an Africa-wide problem, and we need to solve it together.
The reason they talking like that, the reason they framing the narrative in that manner, whether it's in relation to South Africa, whether it's in relation to how Black people are treated in America, whether it's what's going on in Nigeria with how corrupt the political system is over there, the way they look at basically geopolitical things that are happening within certain African countries, they frame that narrative deliberately to justify why we should be Captain American Negroes or be a militant integrationalist in South Africa. It's basically an excuse. It's basically, oh, we don't want to end up like Zimbabwe, so let's just keep kissing white people's ass here in South Africa and enjoy the little bit of.
I'm gonna totally agree with that. There are fully. Remember, I began by saying, it is correct to flag up the contradiction. Yeah, absolutely, flag up the contradiction. All right.
What I'm trying to say to you.
Pardon me?
No, what I'm trying to say to you is that with your original point, I'm saying the majority of people who talk like that, whether they claim to be South African, whether they claim to be ADOS, whether they claim to be Nigerian, anyone who looks at anything happening on the African continent and puts a microscope on it and criticizes it as if it's happening in a vacuum, yes, that person is not African-centered to begin with. That's just a coon.
I'm going to agree.
There's
with
no
that.
point in even focusing on what they're saying. Like, who cares what they say? They're not going to ride anyway. When shit pops up, you think those people are going to ride? All these people are like, oh, yeah, the xenophobia in South Africa. Oh, yeah, look at those Africans. Oh, look at those Nigerians. What about the Niger? They're not going to ride.
No, I'm agreeing with you, bro.
I'm trying to make.
I'm going to agree with you, right? But my point is that and I don't think we can just ignore it, because we live in the information age where ideas are the primary currency. So we have to be mindful of the ideas that we're putting out. And that's why I began by saying that there are many in South Africa, yeah, who are Pan-Africanists and who are fighting and chanting out against what some of their fellow so-called countrymen and women are engaged in right about now. Yeah, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that, you know what I'm saying, and address that. Just like for me, for example, as somebody who's very critical of the rhetoric of the ADOS movement, I would never superimpose that on the entirety of Black America, because I know that there's millions of Black Americans that don't think like that, and there's a strong Pan-African movement in America, among Africans in America, that promotes different ideas. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important. I think we need to do that, even as we chant and criticize and condemn even the actions of some of our brothers and sisters there. But all I'm saying is that what we see in South Africa is a very explicit example of what is taking place around the entire continent. Do we know what is going on in the Congo right about now? Yeah, there are rich people in the Congo, rich Black people in the Congo, but there is also a war that has been going on for decades. Yeah, and it's because European multinational companies, yes, what's it called? And institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and the UN still maintain control over African land and resources, and therefore economies. We have to understand what Sajid Kwame Nkrumah called neo-colonialism. And until we get to grips with that and organize in relation to our own Pan-African agenda, then we're gonna continue to see these problems. But we're not gonna solve the problems by singling out South Africans and saying, look at these South Africans. You know what I'm saying? We have to be very specific. Yeah, we have to be very specific. You know what I'm saying? No African nation has yet been able to throw off the shackles and the influence and the domination of Europe. You know what I'm saying? It just looks more stark in South Africa because the white people them are very much still there. Yeah, but it's not a different situation. The white people them that are still there are still in league with their brothers and sisters in America and in Europe and in Israel and in Britain in particular. That's why when Zimbabwe kicked off in the early 2000s, yeah, Tony Blair put out the call quick and said, yo, listen, we got room for you over here, you know, when you're ready for come, yeah? You know what I'm saying? Come, yeah, our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe, yeah? That's why the West kicked off, because they know that's their people. That's what I'm saying. And I think we should be mindful of that. You get me? I don't know why we believe, I don't know, man. I like, let me ask you a question, Danas, yeah?
Go ahead.
Is there poverty in Nigeria?
Of course.
Would you argue that the extreme wealth, yeah? And I agree that I saw somebody put up a comment a while ago about the fact that Africa's going nowhere without Nigeria. I'd agree with that to some degree. I think that Nigeria is a key nation. Congo is a key nation. Yeah, but would you argue that in Nigeria, the mineral wealth of Nigeria is serving the masses of the people in Nigeria?
No.
Right. And so that's the point I'm trying to make. We can't measure the strength of an African economy by the number of black billionaires that exist within its borders. Yeah, because normally those billionaires are in league with some unscrupulous European Western multinational corporations and fleecing and getting personal benefits off of at the expense of the dispossessed masses. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't think any African nation currently has the moral authority to look at South Africa, or any Africans anywhere in the world have the moral authority to look at South Africa and say, look at these South Africans. Yeah, we have to say what's going on with our brothers and sisters and what is it that we can do to assist, whether it's just putting out a different narrative, a different propaganda, whether it is, you know what I'm saying, I don't know, moving there or reaching out or, you know, having conversations like these, yeah, that whereby we can try to inform the rest of the masses of our people. We should all be looking at it as we are part of this situation. We're not looking down at our brothers and sisters in South Africa, you know what I'm saying, them kind of things there, right? We have to be part of the solution to the problem because none of us are solving it, yeah? You know what I'm saying? To any significant degree, wherever we are at the moment. We can't say that anywhere where black people are in any significant numbers that we're enacting and effecting a model for our self-determined development. It's not, Lord have mercy. So go on.
Now, I don't know if it's the largest refinery in the world that Dangote is building, but he's building a pretty big refinery.
Yeah, I'm not disputing, but what does that? This is the,
what I'm saying, Doc, is Nigeria is taking a turn in the right direction, and Nigeria is the future.
Dennis, you always caping for Nigeria, man.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I've been to South Africa. I'm telling you, it's the truth.
No, I agree with you, but I'm just saying you always caping for Nigeria.
Okay, but there's issues in Nigeria. I'm saying that there are serious infrastructure issues in Nigeria when it comes to roads and power. I can't even argue that. But
Don, can I pose a question to you?
Oh, I got an question. I'll try my best.
Can I pose a question to you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, since you well traveled in Africa, right? Now, I have no faith, right, in whatever type of revolutionary action popping off in South Africa. I have no faith in Black South Africans ever reaching a level of consciousness where we can actually collectively organize and do something that pops anything off. I have no faith in that. happening in Black South Africa. In your estimation, based on your travels, which African country do you think has the most dormant potential to do that? And I don't want to use the word revolution because it's so saturated and watered down, but
this is the thing. The situation in South Africa is different because, again, you guys are the majority, but everything is still white dominated. So when you say revolution popping up, it depends what type of revolution. Like what needs to happen in South Africa, that's a whole, you can't really compare it what needs to happen in other countries. Because South Africa
in Kenya, Africans are the majority, yeah. But a minority Indian population, yeah, still dominate more of the country than the majority African population.
And not like on the level of Uganda. Now Uganda, somewhat Tanzania, that's true. But Kenya is not. I mean, I see what you're saying.
You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. I'm gonna agree with your assessment. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with your assessment where these things are concerned. My point is that the majority of the continent is majority Black, yet the majority of the people of the continent do not benefit from the mineral wealth of the continent. Why? Because Europeans, yeah, and to an increasing degree Chinese are dominating the economies and the resources. Yes, that infrastructural development is key. That's what I'm saying. It's a key situation, and no African nation has been able to solve that problem independently. Yeah, and it's partly because look, Julius Malema is the only African leader, yeah, that I've heard in recent times speak about relinquishing the colonial borders, for example. Yeah, it's partly because the nations that we're housing on the continent were designed specifically to serve European interests, and so therefore they're continuing to serve European interests. And we have not been able to develop the fortitude, well, we have, but those who did develop the fortitude and were leading those movements were killed off. Yeah, the Sankaras and the Lumumbas and the Nkrumahs and the Secretaries of this world, yeah, were killed off in that regard. So we just have to be mindful of how we're characterizing our brothers and sisters in sweeping and generalized terms. That's what I'm guarding against.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yes, there is mental. We're all suffering from it. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah,
okay, brother Tan, you want to add to this?
I'm just listening. I'm waiting for the question because as far as I hear observations and which is fair, but I would rather respond to questions.
What question? I don't get it. What question? Sorry.
No, he said.
Yeah. So, in terms of
no, Tan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay, can you hear me?
All right, I've got a question.
Sure.
No, I just wanted to ask you if you think. Yeah, no, you're clear. I just wanted to ask you if you think
he's cut out. I can't hear him.
Oh God, you got.
Yeah, Nigerians, they looting the connection again.
Yeah, God, you got to pay up your MTN data. You got to pay it up. You got to recharge your data, brother. You got to recharge your data.
Go ahead.
I never heard the question, bro.
God, you have to recharge your data, brother. That's what you got to recharge.
All right, let me. Is it Brother Tan?
Yes, it is.
Where are you, bro?
I'm in the U.S. in Florida.
Okay, but where are you from?
Zimbabwe.
Okay, so in relation to and I'll ask Brother, is it Gadu? This as well when he comes back. But in relation to, because you're talking about how to address the situation, yes. And one of the main, obviously, being from Zimbabwe, you would know of the.
I'm still here.
All right. Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna ask both of you then, yeah, because I think that learning from Zimbabwe, there is a significant push, which is being spearheaded. I'd say it's not exclusive to the economic freedom fighters, the EFF, but it's being spearheaded by them in terms of government and a push to be in government. But I'm suggesting that the policy of land reform, and I'm forgetting the specific slogan. Land appropriate, is it not appropriation without compensation? I'm forgetting.
Yeah. Basically,
yeah. Without compensation, yeah. That is a policy that is directly aimed at solving beginning to solve, should I say, the economic problems faced by Africans in South Africa from its root. Yeah, and I'm suggesting that addressing issues like those, outside of the general mental and ideological push for a more Pan-African agenda, are the only ways to really solve the problems that we're seeing right about now. What would you say to that?
You want to go first, House?
If he's still there, it looks like he dropped off.
Okay, no, I'll answer. It's fine.
Well, so basically, you're asking if taking back the land with that compensation, will that solve the issues going on in South Africa? Is that
yeah, and at least begin to solve it. Yeah, is that a policy that's aimed at solving the problems?
Yeah, but it's shocking. This is the thing. So I talked to South Africans about it, and it's like, well, we can get the land back, but what are we gonna do with it? We need jobs. We need jobs. We need jobs. That's what they tell me. Like,
yeah,
that's what they tell me. Like, we don't know what to do. We want jobs. We want jobs. We don't know what to do with the land. That's what they told me.
Oh God.
You know what that sounds like though. That sounds like Europeans, yeah, European colonizers, yeah. And I'm suggesting that in 90% of most African nations, yeah, you'll probably get a similar answer from a lot of people, yeah. But the fact of the matter is that we can see evidence of a strong movement and push that is behind this agenda. Yeah, it's not an obscure thing. Go on.
Can I come in, Shaka?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that like political? Just if you know politics, if you know geopolitics, isn't that so naive to state what your agenda is for the entire world to know? Why would the EFF even do that? If you like in terms of the balance of power in South Africa and how the West is the Western power structure is looking at South Africa, and any government that comes into power in South Africa, they're already looking at them with the threat of, we're gonna make you another Zimbabwe 2.0. Why would you even state publicly what your economic agenda is? You're supposed to move in silence. You're supposed to preach all that kumbaya, Rainbow Nation, Nelson Mandela, we are all one, which is what white people do in South Africa. White people don't tell you how they move. They don't tell you that.
Bro, I've seen these white folks. They're blatant with it. Yeah, they be telling you straight.
You cannot tell me about white South Africans. I am telling you, white South Africans, especially the English-speaking liberals of Cape Town, they're not blatant. They're not calling you a nigger or a kafir in your face 24/7. They control but they move in silence. When the cameras are on, they're like, yes, we South Africans, they South African. It's Rainbow Nation. We love Nelson Mandela. They know how to play act. Right. Why would the EFF be so politically naive or so immature in a geopolitical sense to just state that we Pan-Africanist, we're trying to establish black power? That's stupid.
All right, let me.
That's the level of thinking that we're not at. If they were smart, they would play the game, and then once you get in positions of power, you start channeling resources to black people while keeping a smile and shaking hands with white people. You start moving. You got to know how to move geopolitically. The world doesn't, which is my problem with like this whole Pan-Africanist thing. It's not even, I don't have a problem with the ideology of Pan-Africanists, but it's like they state, Thomas Sankara, Patrice, they state what they're going to do. It's like you got to know how to finesse geopolitics. You got to know how to work that system.
Okay, I'm not going to presume to tell you about white South Africans, but I will say that I have definitely come across and witnessed white South Africans that do not fit the profile that you put forward just now. Yeah, I can definitely say that for certain. At the same time, you spoke earlier about mindset, the colonial mindset, yes? Yeah.
It's white supremacy, it's not colonial. Right. Colonialism is a derivative of white racism.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. To me, there's no conflict between those two terminologies, colonial and white supremacy. They're both the same thing, okay? All right. Now, I'm saying to you...
Yeah, but colonial links it to a time period. It links it to a time period.
I said white racism... The mindset, bro. The mindset can still exist even though the period has passed. Yeah? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but... Okay, no, it's fine. I'm not going to get into like a semantic thing. We both need
this. That's what I'm trying to say, right? But I'm saying that... So, evidently, there is a need here to change that mentality. Yes. So how do we change that mentality unless we speak out about it?
What I'm saying is, if you're in a position of a Julius Malema, you got to find that fine balance. You know, you got to find that fine balance. I'm saying that Malema, everybody knows what he's going to do if he ever gets into power, which he will never get into power.
I'm failing to see how that's a negative. The issues that he's representing are issues that speak to the as far as I understand it.
Geopolitically, I'm not telling you. I don't have a problem with it. I support what he supports. I want him to talk like that.
Which was
I'm
actually
telling you that geopolitically, if he even gets near being president, they're going to put a bullet in his head.
No, we know that. That is a possibility, my brother. Except for
it's not a possibility. It's a guarantee.
I'm saying, no, it's not guaranteed because there are many people that have done that have fought liberation movements in the world. Many have been killed and
South Africa not gotten killed.
But my point is that it depends on the strength of the movement that he builds around him. But I'm saying, for example, my brother, that as a part of what the EFF has been able to do, and I'm using them as an example because they probably have the biggest platform on issues such as these. He has directly been able to challenge the people of South Africa in relation to specifically attitudes towards Africans from other parts of the continent. And he said, when so-and-so comes from Britain and so-and-so comes from America and Switzerland and wherever, you don't act violently towards them. But when your brother comes from Nigeria or in Zimbabwe, you act violently towards them. Yeah, and why don't you act violently towards the white man? Because you have got a slave mentality, and you know what I'm saying, them kind of things there. And I'm saying that that ideology, that what he's saying there is directly tied to the justice agenda in terms of land reform that he's pushing. And I'm saying that you can't, in terms of addressing the needs of the people, you have to speak out on certain issues. And I'm saying, so my point is that the example that we see there, and spreading that movement and that message seems to me to be the obvious place to start, because you have a movement that has prominence, a semblance of prominence, that is directly attacking the behavior that we have witnessed over the past week.
Do you know why that won't?
You might just do their strategies, bro, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right. I'm just saying that the reason it will fall on...
You agree with their policies, but you're critiquing their strategies. What I'm saying to you is, I don't know of another movement, and probably based upon what you're saying, if there was another movement that's doing it secretly, I probably wouldn't know, yeah, because it's secret, all right?
I'm not saying movement. Okay, now you're misquoting me.
No. God, can I ask you, I'm trying not to shift subjects, but I have a question. When Nelson Mandela was on Robben Island, right, for 28 years, did any South Africans try to like send rescue force to go get him at all?
At that time,
it's a serious question. I gotta ask.
Yeah. No, at the time in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. America was actually subsidizing the South African military. They were supplying them with nuclear warheads. They were supplying them with training. Basically the CIA and the FBI of South Africa. They were being trained literally in Washington, D.C. Militarily, the Dutch and English coalition that had power in South Africa was pretty much 1,000 or 10,000 times stronger than any organized group that Black people had. The ANC had a military branch, which was Umkhonto weSizwe, MK. They were pretty much surviving with scraps from like a $5 million donation from Muammar Gaddafi or something they could scrape off from, you know what I mean? It was like the South Africa's military at the time was too powerful. Even if they did try, nobody did, but I'm saying even if they did try, militarily, it would have fallen apart.
But brother Daddy, though, correct me if I'm, well, I was gonna say correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong. But I don't know of any specific attempts to militarily break Nelson Mandela out of prison, and I want to make a point though, because Nelson Mandela is an individual. There were many prisoners of war in prison.
Yeah, Robert Sobukwe, everybody.
Yeah, there were many, and I was gonna say Robert Sobukwe among the most prominent. So, and I'm making that point because oftentimes people act like Nelson Mandela was the only one that went to jail. Yeah, he wasn't. And to be quite frank, when he came out of jail, there were people that were still in jail for being freedom fighters. Yeah, but outside of that, you mentioned that the ANC had a military wing, and there was also the Pan African Congress of Azania, who had a military wing, and the fight in South Africa was becoming more and more military, guerrilla warfare style. In relation to that, so
it was guerrilla tactics. It wasn't really military, but it was guerrilla tactics. They were attacking like power stations and things like that. They weren't killing white people. It hadn't gotten to that level.
The PAC slogan was "one settler, one bullet," so there was definitely the intention.
I fully understand that, which is why they murdered Chris Hani in '92, by the way.
Right, exactly. But my only point is, so whereas the attempt may not have been specifically to get Nelson Mandela out of the jail, there was an armed rebellion in progress. And as far as I have had the blessing of being acquainted with some PAC elders throughout my life, and their analysis of the situation is that part of the reason why Nelson Mandela was released in the first place was to basically neutralize the fighting spirit of the people in the first place, because they were becoming more and more intolerant, more and more impatient, and the guerrilla tactics were beginning to become more and more sophisticated. And they would have pushed for an absolute and total revolution. So whereas it might not have been, let's get Nelson Mandela out, but there was definitely a guerrilla armed rebellion in progress that the people were waging. You know what I'm saying? And we have landmarks to look at, like Soweto, you know what I'm saying, and many other uprisings.
Shaka, can I give you just a slight anecdote too?
Yes, sir. I'd love to hear it.
If you remember, in white supremacy, the global white power structure, right, after World War II, pretty much started. They now I don't know the specifics. I don't know how they did it, but pretty much, in terms of having a white military, like white military presence in any majority black land, they went against that. They were like, no, we're gonna control these places. We're going to use whatever we can use, whether it's the IMF, whether it's multi-corporations, whether it's having a stronger so-called currency than them. Basically, they figured out what I call soft core colonization or soft core domination.
Yes.
They didn't have to be physically in Congo to control the Congo. And this was mostly in the 1950s and 1960s when they were putting in all these puppet leaders, killing Patrice Lumumba and replacing him with Mobutu. South Africa was supposed to go through the same thing in the 1950s and 1960s. But the Dutch settlers of South Africa, specifically the Dutch, are so racist and had been in South Africa for so long, they were like, no, we too racist to even pretend. That's the only reason apartheid lasted in South Africa so long. It wasn't a matter of the white world actually felt sorry for it. No, they were like, yo, there's too much heat on white people. We are the international symbol. We have been fighting these non-white people and these Africans for 200-300 years. We need to figure out a way to dominate them. So the only reason there wasn't some type of transition of power in South Africa in the 50s is because Afrikaners, which are Buddhas, were too racist. And the international community had to force their hand. And by international community, I mean other white people. They had to force their hand. They put all kinds of restrictions. P.W. Botha was forced out of power by his own party. And they replaced him with F.W. de Klerk, who was just as racist as Botha, but he knew how to play the modern geopolitical game in the late 90s, in the late 80s and 90s. So this whole thing
they still offered both for a state funeral. After all.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that this whole point of South Africa, this so-called democracy that we're in, or this whole apartheid thing ending, it did not end. All they did was rebrand and redesign white supremacy and white domination on the African continent. It's just that white South Africans were too racist to play the game that they were playing in America with so-called integration. They were playing in Britain, trying to, you know what I mean? It's like that's all that happened in South Africa.
Definitely.
They did it in other countries 30 years before they did it here. The same. Go on.
Yeah, I just want to mention because the brother before he dropped off was talking about ways to address the situation. By the way, I do want to call the name of Mama Namzama Madikizela, Winnie Mandela. Because it's only just over a year since she passed away, and I think she represents the fighting spirit of the people of South Africa. But at the same time, it should be also noted that some of the strongest movements that we've seen, that are advocating on behalf of African people have come out of South Africa in recent years. So, for example, the students' movement, in regards to decolonizing the curriculum and roads must fall.
You opened up another can of worms. Shaka, but continue.
No, listen, I don't deny that there are contradictions in all of these things, But
no, I'm not pointing out. I'm saying the whole student thing. That's a whole separate show. The whole student uprising.
I know. But the brother who's returned, is it? What's his name again, my brother? From the brother from Zimbabwe.
Tan.
Tan.
Tan is there. He's there.
Yeah, but So
Tan, are you sure now?
Yes, I am.
All right. Tendai Wadi.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shaka.
What was I saying? The students' movement in terms of decolonization. My only point is that if we're looking at ways and means to address this thing, because what the situation that we're seeing is born out of a particular mindset whereby we are not taught to see our African brothers and sisters as brothers and sisters. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel like the movements that are promoting the idea that we are brothers and sisters, like the decolonization movement, are part of the solution. The Pan-African Congress of Azania is part of the solution. The economic freedom fighters are part of the solution. And so the political education and the social education that these organizations and groups provide form the basis of a kind of national therapy if we employ it properly in the way that it can be employed if there are enough voices behind the agendas. I'll put that to you both.
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying.
I definitely agree. And as you're framing the solution, what comes to mind is the idea that, as Needy Fuller explains, that every aspect of your life, in terms of whether it's economics, religion, everything has to be looked at from I wouldn't want to say Afrocentric perspective, but from a perspective that realizes the world we're living in and the time we're living in. So I definitely would never want to criticize any person who comes up with a different idea in terms of how to solve the problem. You can only contribute to it. And to the other point that was raised previously in terms of how the concept of justice is always perceived by some people to mean integration. I do not think integration it holistically provides for what justice represents, and I think that's something that you could be looked at further from a different perspective. But certainly I've learned a lot, both positive and the shortcomings that we face, and I feel staying on code or understanding what the code is and feeding into that code is probably what we need to build on. It probably exists in certain sections, but it's so broken down into multiple pieces. It's hard to see the whole picture. So it's when you have organizations that kind of understand the time we're living in and the need to put ourselves in the right position that we can really defeat this animal that's white supremacy.
Definitely. And you know what? I'm what's in my head at the moment, because we're focusing on how the foreign, the so-called foreign nationals, stupid terminology, but the foreign nationals are being treated. But there's a whole nother situation, because a sister who I understand is from South Africa was raped and murdered in the midst of around the same time as all this was going on at the same time as well.
Yeah, at the University of Cape Town.
Yeah, right. So and I'm saying that it's not as though there is not violence from South Africans towards other South Africans. Yeah, as I understand it, well, I'm always skeptical of sometimes when I hear these things, but I have been made aware that the abuse of women in South Africa is a significant issue. Yeah, what I'm saying?
Shaka, not to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
whenever you have a dominated people, right, a defeated group of people who are dominated,
Yes.
they are gonna basically they're gonna showcase every pathology known to man.
No, I agree.
Every criminality. No. What I'm saying, the reason I'm saying this to you specifically is like you said that you were made aware that the women was raped and all of that. There's a lot of people with different agendas, like this whole this women empowerment, feminist. No, they will ignore like 10 crime stats and just look at 100 women were raped in 2 hours. Not actually 10,000 people were killed in 30 seconds. It's like there's a lot of that happening too, by the way. So it's like whenever I hear this whole the women misogyny, and it's like, no, these are the pathologies of a conquered people. It's not just one specific thing. They rape, they kill, they kill people who look like them, they kill people who you know what I mean? It's like that's just the nature of being dominated by anti-blackness, white supremacy.
No, I take your point, and it's kind of my point in the sense of the fact that we're not just dealing with a situation whereby brothers and sisters in South Africa are being violent towards brothers and sisters from elsewhere in the continent. There is a general situation, a context for everything that is going on, and that affects brothers and sisters in South Africa against themselves also, yeah? But I do think, having stated that, my brother, I do think that as African men, wherever there is to any significant level, a situation whereby there are African men ill-treating African women, that as men, we have to pay attention to that and to addressing ourselves and each other to that problem. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we can minimize in any way, shape, or form our responsibility in that regard, even as, and I would agree with you in terms of the agendas of feminists and so on and so forth, because they're not, those agendas are not necessarily always African liberation agendas, yeah? And so I'd agree with that. I'd agree with not falling into the abject and complete condemnation and demonization of the African man. But to whatever extent it does exist, we are responsible as African men for addressing the situation. And I think that we do need to have some conversations around that a bit more, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Especially because our sisters, whereas there may be agendas among the sisters, we cannot throw out the truth in what is being said just because of the agendas. We must address the truth in what is being said, even as we challenge some of the agendas behind them.
Shaka, you know what my only issue with like Pan-Africanist rhetoric?
Go ahead.
It sounds too sentimental. It's like, I want to discuss power, which you do too. But like when you guys go, our brothers in Africa, our sisters, it's like let's just cut the sentimental talk. Let's discuss power. Even for example,
you're my brother. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not rejecting that, Shaka. I'm not rejecting that on a personal level. I'm not rejecting that. I just know that Black people, as a people, we are so not sentimental is not the word, but we are just so emotionally influenced. When you talk like that, it evokes emotions. It doesn't evoke logic. It doesn't evoke like pattern recognition.
I think you're with all due respect, I think that the dichotomy that you're drawing is fundamentally Eurocentric. I think that
what is wrong with that? They in power. That's the other problem.
Hear me for a second. I think that,
yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, the kind of, when I say brother and sister and them kind of things there, and the love, that I emit towards other Africans is the kind of energy, the kind of vibration, the kind of spirit.
See, now we're discussing love.
That is going to put us in a position to acquire
vibration. Oh
no. Here, listen to me. Because if I'm saying that the power of African people, is going to be predicated on the love.
I am listening.
That we have for ourselves and each other. So there is no African power without African love and African self-determination. And the African, I don't know, it's not sentimentality, but yes, when I see my brothers and sisters, I have a sentiment. Just like when I see
quantify that?
our women and our children I have a sentiment of love, yeah, for them, and that leads me to want to protect them and provide for them, and see no harm come to them and see them flourish and develop them. So the love that I share for my brothers and sisters is what's going to empower us in the long run. It's the lack of that love for each other which has produced the situation that we're seeing right about now. I'm not one to deny relevant critiques of Pan-Africanism, yeah, even as I identify as a Pan-Africanist. I'm not one to deny those things, but
I literally, Shaka, I am a Pan-Africanist.
Good.
Like, I'm not even critiquing it. I'm just saying, when you guys talk and engage in geopolitical conversations, and
yes.
No. I'm just letting you know. It's a soft critique. I know how that sounds. Oh, their brother and sister, and it's like, cut that out. What is needed in South Africa right now, right? They're like, for example, with the whole women abuse thing,
yes.
You literally need a police force. This many people are gonna guard this area, this whatever. Like, this square area is gonna have this many guns. If you seen doing this, that, and the third, raping, you're gonna get killed. That will solve it immediately. Then give the people resources, and whatever vague or ambiguous definition of resource is, whether it's access to this or access to that, but literally help the people to the point where they're not starving, they're not desperate for housing, they got running water, electric. That will solve a whole lot of nonsense. This is what I'm saying. Like, when Pan-Africanist, it's like you coming from a great place. This is what you're supposed to be, African-centered. You don't even have to state that a person is Pan-Africanist, but we have to, since we dominated. But I'm just saying, when you guys talk, even though you might not hear it, man, it sounds so, it's like a so, and the problem, it sounds so good that it doesn't make people start engaging both hemispheres of their brain. They just hear, oh man, Shaka, he's a brother.
Now,
and it's like
you know what you just said there, but you know what you just said there, though, yeah, in terms of both hemispheres of the brain, that's the point, yeah. If in speaking about black love, I must diminish black power, and if speaking about black power, I must diminish black love. Therein lies the problem, yeah, because I don't know of any people that have successfully liberated themselves without an intense principle, yeah, of self-love and love for their brothers and sisters, and that's all it is. So it maybe maybe my rhetoric does sound flowery, you know what I'm saying, in relation to how I speak about African people, but like you've already identified, there is no doubt about the fact that I am speaking about African power, yeah, and relinquishing and removing the influence and the undue dominance, yeah, of European people on us as a people in general. There's no doubt about that. You know what I'm saying? But I do, and I do think one more thing here. I do think that when it comes to this issue of changing our mindset, though, because you spoke about this before, and I'm saying that in as much as we have a Eurocentric mindset in relation to politics and economics, which facilitates their domination of our economies, I believe that we also, as African men, have to do some decolonization when it comes to our ideals of manhood and what it means to be a man. We have to re-Africanize ourselves where these things are concerned. And I'm saying the failure to do that is going to put us in a position whereby we are perpetuating certain behavior in relation to how we relate to our women that we've learned from the white man, if we're not careful.
All that stems from powerlessness. That's it. Like,
I agree with you.
Here's a classic example. Here's a classic example, right? Me and you, we raised $100,000, whatever, to build, let's say a factory in Rwanda or something, because they produce coffee over there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to call that a Pan-Africanist fund.
But I can, though.
You can literally call it the Shaka and Gaju coffee endeavor. This is what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to separating, but we would still be achieving the same goals. We would still be achieving the same You don't have to wrap it around this. Because I can almost guarantee you, Shaka, that's a large reason. A lot of these ADOS guys are. A lot of it is white identification, but a lot of these ADOS guys, the reason they just mentally check out from that whole being African, because it sounds like and there's been so many frauds, like since the 60s.
All right, let me ask this, bro.
Whole black.
let me ask you this here. If what would a Boer say, yeah? If somebody was to say to them, well, if you're starting a coffee shop, yeah, you don't need to name the coffee shop in the language of the Boers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to call it anything in the Boer language. Just call it something in Zulu. What would they say?
Boers have been in power since the Dutch East India Company came to South Africa in 1652, and the Dutch West India Company landed on Manhattan. Like, it's a completely different context. Those are people who have been in power for 500 years.
No, yeah, I know, but to a degree, because
so contextually,
yeah, but at different points, the British have had a hand over them, and as you would know, there's been conflict between the Dutch and the British. Yeah, in terms of who's going to dominate in South Africa over time. And I'm saying that even in relation to the English, when the English had the upper hand and dominance, the Boers were still confident. And I forget the name of this general. Is it General? Something Stein, yeah, in the 1800s, yeah, made this statement, said something to the degree that I'm paraphrasing now. The language of the oppressor in the mouth of the oppressed is the language of the enslaved. Or
can I address that? Can I address that quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. English, the language that we call English today, right, is a completely different animal to what they were speaking in literally 500 years ago in the 1500s, which is completely different to the English they were speaking in the 1800s. You can weaponize any language. Literally, black people could establish black power tomorrow by adopting German, as long as we weaponize it to achieve our ends. That's why do you think white people don't like hip-hop slang? Because it's taking the English is supposed to be designed to limit black people's thinking, while at the same time white people can manipulate it in every way, in any which way that they want to. But if you adopt any language, this is why I had to explain this to my family members. I'm like, one of the biggest problems in South Africa, and not just South Africa, but Africa as a whole, I told them all black people in South Africa should learn English, not to speak it and have a fucking white sounding accent or whatever. They should learn English strictly for the purposes of thinking in the abstractions. They have had the head start for the last 500 years. So if you want a book on the 33 strategies of war, the 48 laws of power, if you want anything as far as thinking, as far as a pattern recognition, you're gonna have to get it in English or some type of European language. Languages can be changed.
English is the language that the world does business in for the most part.
Pretty much, yeah. This whole language thing about we should call it, and the worst part is this. Who speaks better Zulu than the Zulu nation? They got conquered by the English. Who speaks better Xhosa than who speaks better Igbo or whatever the hell they speak? They still got conquered. So language has never predicated whether or not you're going to get conquered or not, or you're going to lose a war or not. The Japanese, they had bombs dropped on them. They all speak Japanese in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm telling you that language is something that you can manipulate for your own, literally. Establish one language for an entire region, whether it's going to be Swahili, whether it's going to be English, and then start adding your words to that language. Dr. Amos Wilson talked about this all the time. It's like, stop limiting your worldview on we're just going to adapt some African language and we're going to be, it's like, this is my problem internally with Pan-African is it gets away from the logical thinking and it gets into this whole immeasurable nonsense about love and vibrations. And it's like, no. We literally need guns. We need this much food, this much rations. We need infrastructure. How do you fly a if you were to hypothetically, just so that Diners doesn't get his channel shut down, hypothetically, if we were to bomb America, do you just attack the cities or do you attack the Hoover Dam? Or that's logic. That has nothing to do with what language you're speaking.
Okay,
this is what I'm saying.
Hold on. The statements made by Gaju are not the statements in
You see how Dennis is telling me out already? God,
search for Uhuru. Okay, I had to put out the disclaimer. The thoughts and statements of Gaju are not statements of search for Uhuru. Okay,
yeah, they gonna grace me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I
No, but
just want to say,
go ahead, Shaka. Go ahead.
I wasn't necessarily advocating against English. My point was that when you have
But a lot of be honest though, Shaka, a lot of Pan-Africanists have that nonsense that francophone countries should not be speaking French and anglophone countries should not be speaking English.
I do believe that ultimately, listen, I live in the UK, yeah, and in the UK, there is certain frictions among the various different nations that make up the UK. So you got England, you got Scotland.
I know the history of the British Isles. I know.
One day I was watching the Welsh Parliament, yeah, and this is the first time I watched the Welsh Parliament, and this is a nation that speaks English majority, yeah. And would you believe that watching the Welsh Parliament, which is a British nation, you know, they spoke Gaelic for the majority of the session.
But they don't. Do they do business trade in Gaelic with the international community?
Here I'm saying, right? I'm not denying the importance of English in its current context, but we can. But I wasn't even making the point today that we should do away with.
What's the point of Welsh people speaking Gaelic in Poland?
My point was, if you talk about weaponizing, because maybe the use of the term, for example, if we were to open up a coffee shop, yeah, and we call it the Pan-African coffee shop, that may be us, because Pan-African, Pan is a European word. That may be us weaponizing English, yeah. Because any liberation movement develops language that speak to the intentions, the goals, the culture of that movement. You see what I'm saying? Because we don't have to obscure it so much that we just adopt European corporate language for our own thing. We may find it strategic to do that in some instances, but I don't think that we need to do that.
That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying we should move based on what the conditions dictate to us.
Right. Well, I can agree.
We should just analyze what's going on and then go in a majority black place like Nigeria. Those people, they need to know that, yo, you guys are majority black, everybody's black here, everything should be Pan-Africanist. If you're moving in South Africa, okay, you're gonna have to finesse a lot of resources from white people. We're gonna call it something else, but we're still achieving this. I'm saying just analyze whatever situation we're in and move accordingly. But it's like Pan-Africanist talking points, not the ideology. The ideology is perfect, but a lot of the talking points are so steeped in emotions. It's like,
are you in South Africa now?
Sounds like a romantic comment. Yeah, I'm in Cape Town, man. I'm born and raised in Cape Town.
Can I encourage you to look up an elder brother? He's from Ghana, but he currently lives in South Africa. He's a professor. He goes by the name of Kwesi Pra.
Kwesi
Pra.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning him because he does a lot of work on this language thing, and I find his work mostly.
No, even Dr. Kamban. What's Dr. Kamban's son? Dynast. You usually interview him when you go to Ghana.
Beautiful brother.
Yeah, but it's like that's we're not arguing against that, but it's like you can use any language. I mean, for example, here's a classic example, right? Just how we speak now and how people interact socially. How do people communicate when they in like white corporate America or white corporate South Africa? There's literally corporate language. That is not real English. It's so retarded.
I worked in corporate America for 12 years, almost 12 years. There's definitely corporate.
Exactly. And you know how they speak, Dynast.
Oh yeah. Because I was
almost like a code word.
Listen.
Even when you get fired, they go,
I would kick in the white corporate voice in a heartbeat. Hey, how you doing?
Exactly. Even when you get fired, they go, we have relinquished you of your duties.
Yeah. You're sorry. We just
that literally means nothing, but somehow you've been told you got fired.
Hey, here we go. Yeah, we just feel like you're not a culture fit here at the company, and we just decided to move on. You'll have a great future. If you need any recommendations, just let me know. But yeah, it's just not a culture fit for what we're trying to do here, buddy.
So
that is weaponization of a language. That is
advocating for Africans though, like among each other, just among each other now. Yeah,
I'm not saying we should do that amongst each other. I'm saying we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist in a world where we have been dominated for 500 years. We cannot be articulating and thinking in the same way that got Shaka, that made the Zulus lose their land, that made the Xhosas lose their land, that made the Central and the East Africa. We can't be thinking like that. We got to come up with new concepts. We got to look at, okay, that works, that doesn't work, we should try. That's all I'm advocating. I'm not going, we shouldn't have. Matter of fact, in South Africa, The average black person in South Africa speaks like 3 or 4 languages.
I agree.
Listen, that's
So
Africa.
it's not even, so they literally could learn English and think in abstractions and or not just English, just any abstract language where you can think in abstractions in terms of recognizing patterns, doing mathematics, being able to build whatever, spaceships, whatever. Just a language that's going to be the official thinking language. Then you can have the conversational language. Like, that's not an issue. This is my problem. It's like, when you talk to Pan-Africanists, just like, we're trying to conquer the world, and you guys are like, hey man, we should call each other brothers and sisters.
To be fair though, bro, I think you're oversimplifying the argument. I think that there is nothing wrong with the intention to make African languages functional in areas of people activity such as science and technology. I think
I agree with you, Shaka. I completely agree. But what I'm telling you is that we've frozen in time for in South Africa specifically, Zulu and Xhosa have been frozen literally from the 1800s.
I know.
Are frozen. Do you know what they call it? No. Just to show you an example, Shaka. Do you know what they call a computer in Zulu?
Computer.
Exactly. Do you know what they call a cell phone in Zulu?
Cell phone, yeah.
Exactly. Because we don't even have the words to articulate technological advancements. In fact, the word abstract does not exist in Zulu.
But isn't that an argument for the promotion of African languages and making them functional?
I'm saying how long is that going to take? 300 years? That's what I'm saying. Not necessarily. We should do it, but I'm saying in terms of what the pressing issues for the next 50 to 100 years,
yeah, bro,
we just need to go, look, it's going to be English and French.
But I would argue,
let's move on.
Bro, I would argue it's a precedent issue, but learning that pursuing that endeavor does not in any way take away from our capacity to learn English and French or even Mandarin if we want to. Yeah, for functional purposes. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't mind. I don't care what language we do. I'll teach my kids Mandarin if that's what's going to guarantee that Africans are in power.
Indeed.
Hey guys, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and close out. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. We'll start off with you, Shaka. Anything else you want to share in closing?
No, just appreciate your platform, my brother. You know what I'm saying? You're doing good work. Whether we agree or disagree on whatever points, I think the work that you're doing in terms of exposing our people to the continent is invaluable. So I truly appreciate that. While I'm here, because you've allowed me to do this before, so I'll take the liberty of doing it again. Check out my online media platform, which is Got Kush TV, GOTKUSH TV, Got Kush TV. And big up to all my team, my brothers and sisters who run Got Kush TV. Much appreciated. Give thanks for us.
Oh, no problem. Gaju, anything else you want to share in closing?
Yeah, I just want to send a shout out to Holipsism, man. The BIAO.
Okay.
I follow those guys. You should have that guy more often, man.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be on more often, definitely.
Yeah. But just in closing, I know like the ADOS fuckboys. I'm sure they're going crazy in the comment section, but just in closing, with South Africa.
Just a couple with ADOS Nigel, he actually was agreeing with you.
Oh, that's shocking. Okay. Okay, but just in closing, okay? I'm not saying we should go out and go kill white people or we should get guns I'm not even saying that. All I'm saying, and this goes for literally ADOS, this goes for Nigeria, this goes for anybody who is black, regardless where they find themselves on the planet. Colombia, Brazil, North America, Canada, anywhere on the planet, right? If you are a black person, whatever you're trying to do, in whatever capacity, please center not just your conversation, but your solution and your end goal should be that when all of this shit is said and done, we will have power, the ability or complete and utter autonomy, the ability to live life as we see please, have access to resources, raise our kids the way we want to raise them, and have the ability to protect those. That's it. Now, is that your end goal? And that goes for anybody, whether you claim ADOS, whether you are copper colored more, whether you are colored South African, whatever you're calling yourself, whether you're calling yourself a Zulu, a Shangaan, is your end goal that in this world, in an anti-black world, Asians are anti-black. I know you guys want to talk about white supremacy 24/7 and Nelly Fuller as if that's just our only issues. Even if we were to take white people out, Asians and Arabs are waiting in the wings. Arabs dominated North Africa for 700 years. They would jump at the opportunity to become the dominant world group again. In America, Hispanic mixed breeds, which is Europeans and Native Americans, which they call Mexicans and Hispanic, oh, they ready. There's like 1 billion of them. They anti-black. Asians are anti-black. Arabs are anti-black. White people are in powers. They anti-black and racist. So just going forward, how are you going to engage with that world, that anti-black world that doesn't see you as ADOS, doesn't see you as Zulu, doesn't see you as South African, doesn't see you as Nigerian, simply sees you as the bottom shelf of the global hierarchy. You are at the bottom. How are you going to interact with that world going forward for the next 50, 100, 200, 300 years? That is my only closing argument. And thanks for the opportunity, Dynast.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. Guys, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror, search for Uhuru. Please, peace.